Hey, how you going?
Good. My name's Sarah, and thanks for agreeing to drive around with me in your car here in Sydney today.
That's okay.
This will only take 10 minutes or so, and you can talk as much as you want. There's no right or wrong answers to this interview. Sometimes I might prompt you with a question, or other times I might just let you talk and just affirm with a small gesture or a sound, but those aren't indications that you're right or wrong. There's no judgment here.
Okay.
Just relax, and I'd love it if you could share your impressions, recollections, thoughts, and musings as they come to you. So,
Totally.
let's start off.
Okay.
Okay, so how old are you, Chris?
I'm 31.
Great. And how long have you had your driver's license for?
I believe 13 years.
Okay. And how long of that time have you been driving in Sydney on the road?
Would it be
Just
10
roughly.
years? 10, 9 years, depending on when I moved up. Yeah, about 10, 9 years.
Uh-huh. And how frequently do you drive, would you say?
I'd say I drive every day.
Uh-huh. Do you drive far?
Well, I drive a bit for work, so I could drive between a few kilometres during the day, or I could drive 100 kilometres during a day. It very varies. It's quite random.
Do you mainly drive in like the CBD or in the inner city or suburban areas?
Maybe the inner city and occasionally the suburban areas.
And can you ride a bike?
I can.
Do you ever cycle in Sydney on the road?
I do.
Uh-huh. So how do you feel about cyclists in general?
They're riding around on a death trap.
Oh, you think it's dangerous?
From my experience, it was very dangerous and a very fine line between getting somewhere on time without using a car to getting splattered all over the ground and being very sore and sorry for yourself.
So do you see the risks of cycling as more than the benefits, or the other way around?
I'd say it's more risky than the benefits, because I reckon you're probably more likely to have a bike accident than you are a car accident in Sydney. Not in other cities, but I reckon in Sydney, yes, because there's not there's a big biking culture, but the city's not set up properly for bikes, I'd say.
So can you name, I know you're a cyclist, but can you name off the top of your head some of the sorts of types of cyclists that you might see on the road when you're driving, or even if you're cycling?
You probably have 3 different kinds. You probably have your serious cyclists who do not races, but like on weekends they're out for like 3 hours cycling around, and then you have your people who just ride the bike every day and are quite serious about how they ride. And then you have, I guess you'd say, most of everyone else who are just people who've got your bike, and they're serious, and the people who the everyday punter, they're reasonably competent on their bikes and what they do. You probably less likely to have problems with them than you would with the novice bicyclists, who they're probably your main problem, I'd say, generally. If you're worried about something happening to you, or a cyclist putting himself in the wrong position to have an accident, I worry about them. Although on the other hand, a lot of experienced cyclists, they're doing the right thing, and then the car does the wrong thing and they get hit. So I'd probably still worry more about the inexperienced, new to bike, new to cycling type of thing.
Do you think those newbies, do you associate that with a particular sort of persona, like an age or a gender or a demographic or income level or anything?
No, I think it's not. It doesn't. I think it's nothing to do with race or age, or it's just a certain type of person who's decided to ride a bike because it's it's a convenient, or it's cheap, or it's all they've got to do. But a certain type of person who's not that coordinated and new to a new thing like bike riding, which can when you first start out, especially if you start out as an adult, is tricky, and then trying to do it in Sydney on the streets makes it even more tricky and quite dangerous.
So do you think maybe cyclists should have to have driver's license?
I don't think so, but I think people should think hard and long before they ride a bike in the city. I think it'd be a bit silly to have every single bike rider, you know, from kids to adults having, you know, licenses. But there should be more, I guess, advertisement and, you know, campaigns to tell people that, you know, running the city is not a joke, and you need to maybe do some training or just, you know, some more practice when you're riding through the city, because it's a lot different than riding a bike path riding in the city.
Do you know of any types of training or practice that are available to people to get them as road ready as cyclists?
Yeah, there are a couple in Sydney. I know there's the council puts on a few, I think, weekly intro to cycling tours around the city, and then there's also just cycling tours where you with a professional who knows how to ride around the city, and they don't necessarily teach you how to cycle, but they'll navigate you through the city and you probably learn off them.
Mm-hmm. So in general, do you feel like cyclists have an equal right to be on the road? Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, they do. And the way Sydney's set up with the lack of cycleways, they have to, because you can't. It's terrible for the pedestrian and the cyclist to ride on the footpath, because one, the pedestrian can get hit by the cyclist to get in the way, and two, the cyclists, most footpaths in Sydney are quite bumpy, so it's not a very safe and comfortable ride for the cyclist. So that's why they're forced into the road, and then that's where your problem starts, because there's not a lot of space on Sydney roads, and Sydney drivers are quite busy and direct in the way they drive, so that's where the problems start with the accidents and the road rage and the general stigma behind riding a bike in Sydney.
Have you ever had road rage towards a cyclist, or had a cyclist express road rage towards you?
I've had cyclists express road rage towards me, because more so just going really, really slow, or my car's slightly across like a bikeway or something, and they get annoyed and they scream at you and give you a look. But after riding a bike for a number of years in Sydney, I know that feeling, so I know exactly what they're doing. It's just sometimes cars get in the wrong position and can cause some problems for the cyclists, and then sometimes the cyclists can get in the wrong position and cause a problem for cars. And I don't think there's anyone who's right or wrong. Each situation's different, but I think that's one that you can never say one side is right and one side is wrong, because you're sharing the space, so you have to play nicely.
So what about as a driver then? Do you think drivers should receive some sort of training to share the road with cyclists?
I think they do, kind of, when they do their their road courses, but it's probably not that heavily touched on.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what that training was?
Well, it was probably tied into the not hitting pedestrians part, and giving way to pedestrians. A lot of people probably tie that up with bicycles, and probably consider bicycles a pedestrian and not an actual vehicle, which they are kind of on Sydney roads, especially. They are a vehicle. It's small and moving around, and then you got your motorcycles, which are actual vehicles, which take up the same space as a bicycle, maybe a bit faster. But there probably should be more emphasis on the bicycle being a vehicle, and also them being a pedestrian on top of it, and a few more warnings. And I think a few more warnings and a bit more respect would probably eliminate a bit of the road rage and a few of the problems.
When you see a cyclist, do you see just a cyclist as a type, or do you see an individual?
Again, it probably depends on you can tell the personality after riding. You can tell the personality of the cyclist in the way they ride. If they're really serious, or they're a bit way too relaxed, or they have no clue what they're doing, or they're just in the middle, just a bit boring. That's probably all you can get away from it, unless they're wearing like a tutu and Mickey Mouse hat. There's probably not too much personality, but you can probably just tell from the way they're riding that type of bike rider.
So have you ever had any
Yeah, nothing too serious. It would have been just, you know, as of now slowing at the lights and about to stop, and a bicyclist crosses the road just before the red light goes or the red light stops, and you sort of jolt and they sort of like give you a wry look. But or when a bicyclist is coming out of a laneway, and that can be a bit, or vice versa, when you're coming out of a laneway and a bicyclist comes across the lane, you both stop, but never actually touch the bicyclist. So I suppose riding a bike has helped me be wary of those spots where bikes tend to sometimes fudge the road rules a little bit and like cut across a lane or whatnot. So yeah.
Do you think training would help them to obey the road rules a bit better?
A little bit, but I think it comes down to the person. Some people, like the people who think they're quite accomplished on a bike, will cut through lanes or cross lanes, go through red lights, go up on the footpath to avoid a red light, and then come back down on the other side. So I think you're always going to come across people who will bend the rules a little bit, and the people who are a bit more of a novice are probably a bit scared of doing stuff like that as much. So
how do you feel when you see them doing that and you're driving? Does it give you an emotion as a reaction?
Just to be, you know, take it easy, you know, be wary where they are, because they're likely that, you know, they could do something at the last minute. So when you come up to an intersection or something and they're riding alongside you, just keep an eye on them, because they could cut across or behind you without you knowing much about what they're doing. So just general, you know, keep an eye on it, because as soon as you forget where they are, if they're running next to you or they're coming across to you, that's when something happens, generally.
Do you have, when you just see a cyclist on the road near you, do you have an emotional reaction to that? What's your first feeling? Is it nervousness, for instance, or is it a positive feeling towards them?
Neither or. It's just like they're there, keep an eye on them. I'm sure some people are quite nervous, and you can tell by the way they drive, because when a cyclist is on the road in front of them, or even off to the side, just outside the lane, some people will pull really, really wide, because a lot of people aren't sure how wide their car is, so they might give their car 2 meter gap between them and the bike, or even more, cut into the other lane and then cause problems with the other traffic in the other lane. So, but for me, it's just there's a bike there, don't hit it, and you know, keep an eye on where they are.
Do you think some practice would help them?
Practice makes perfect, so more practice at everything will make everything better.
Thanks for the ride, Chris.
That's okay.
Okay, bye.